John Carrier.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. And I'm rising to ask the Cabinet Secretary, could the Cabinet Secretary state the measures that are in place to ensure the safety of our school-going children in the wake of a series of unfortunate incidences of deaths in schools across the country, and in particular, Mr. Speaker, the recent death of a pupil from alleged drowning at Visa Oshol Academy, the death of a pupil of Goodrich International Schools from an accident due to negligence, and Mr. Speaker, sadly also, the death of 3 pupils from Maadili Junior School due to a road accident. And Mr. Speaker, I must mention that the Maadili School incident happened over the weekend after the Scouts Founders Day celebrations in Nyeri, a caucus in Parliament that you, Mr. Speaker, are the esteemed patron of the World Scout Parliamentary Union. Mr. Speaker, I'd also want the Cabinet Secretary to state what policy is in place for use by schools when recruiting personnel that handle children in the schools. And these are personnel who include bus drivers, the coaches in the different disciplines of sport and even extracurricular activities, among others. And the Cabinet Secretary should also indicate whether there are any on-the-job compulsory trainings on safety, first aid, and other emergency skills, as well as crisis communication management for school personnel. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, some of the families and parents learn of the death of the pupils and learners from social media, Mr. Speaker. So a crisis communication strategy is there one in the ministry. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would want the Cabinet Secretary to state what measures the ministry is taking to ensure that school personnel found culpable of negligence are brought to book. And this should be escalated not only to the personnel culpable, but also to the administration and the board of these institutions. Mr. Speaker, those are my questions to the Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you. Member for Dagoretti South. Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the question from my friend, the Member of Parliament for Dagoretti South. I was informed by my peers about this question in the morning as I was out in Nyeri for an education day. So my peers had to prepare the answers very quickly, which I looked through as I was coming this house. And Honorable Speaker, again, once more from the outset, to condole with the families, friends, and relatives of the runners for the untimely loss of their loved ones. For this was indeed saddening and unfortunate. The answer for number one, in the case of Visa Oshol Academy, we have established that a grade 2 runner by the name Irias Abdulkarim drowned and died in a swimming pool in the school on the 20th February 2024. We have also established that there were lapses in the management of the swimming pool because it was unsecured. The runner accessed the pool without the knowledge of the pool attendant. We also established that no teacher had been assigned to be in charge of the swimming pool and that the runners were left on their own, which indeed is a contravention of the ministry's guidelines. We had a concluding investigations because I did send a group of officers, plus the Kenya police, they are also on it. And once we establish culpability of the head teacher or any such individual at the overall supervisor of the school, of course, the head teacher, and the swimming pool attendant or another such person for possible negligence, then we will be able to initiate a disciplinary action and harm, waiting for the outcome of the investigations, Honorable Speaker, and I know by the end of this week, as I directed, I will be getting the report, and on the basis of the report, I will then be able to initiate the necessary action. In Woodridge Internal School, we have also established that a PP1 runner named Rian Kipuruto Mutahi died on the 9th February 2024 after falling from a moving bus, which then ran over him. The duty of care for the runners in the bus fell on the driver and his assistants accompanying the runners. The mother was reported at the River Police under OP number as given there, and the police are under instruction to also see whether there was negligence in this, and of course there was, and then they take the necessary action as far as the row of the land is concerned. Regarding the third case, Omadiri Junior School, 37 runners were traveling from Kamukuni grounds in Nyeri after attending the Founders Day celebrations on 24th February 2024. They were accompanied by 3 teachers and two drivers. The accident occurred along the Muranga Gitugi in Jumbe Road. 3 runners lost their lives in the unfortunate incident. 5 are in hospital undergoing treatment, while the rest were treated and discharged. The mother was reported to Muranga Police Station, and the investigations as to the cause of the accident are ongoing, and they are yet to give us a report as the ministry concerned Ministry of Education. Honorable Speaker, the safety of runners in our schools environment is our top priority. The ministry has developed the safety standards manual for schools, which outline the safety protocol of all our schools. The manual sets out the role of school administrators, teachers, and parents where generally the runner is in school or is being transported on school transportation. It outlines the measures that require to be taken by various actors and also stipulates their responsibilities on school safety. Our quality assurance and standards team undertakes inspections of schools to ensure that the requirements of the manual are implemented and enforced as required. In respect of excursions that they normally go out, the manual stipulates that for any school excursions or field trips, the parents should give their consent in writing, and an accompanying teacher is mandatory. Swimming pools are to be manned by qualified attendants and also properly secured. No runner is to attend a swimming pool without the attendant and also a teacher. In addition, the manual requires parents and teachers to understand the risks associated with an excursion and related activities prior to granting their consent or allowing the runners to participate. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ministry carries out monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of this manual in order to ensure the safety of our runners in schools. The manual requires each school to have a school safety subcommittee to oversee the implementation of safety protocols in the school. We have instructed the Quality Assurance and Standards Department to strictly ensure the implementation of the manual and to provide the necessary capacity building to teachers and other staff in schools on the requirements of the manual. The National Education Quality Assurance and Standards Framework also provides 5 assessment dimensions on the basis of which our quality assurance and standards officers inspect school transport. These parameters are as follows: the conditions of the bus, drivers' qualifications, insurance covers, capacity of the bus, the speed governors, and the history of the bus. In addition, the manual, the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport has also issued clear directives on school transport. School funds must be roadworthy and in a good state. Runners must be allocated seats with the functional seat pads at all times. The directive by the Cabinet Secretary is also among the annexures which have included, and we make sure that regular checks of these vehicles are done. On recruitment of support staff, the schools are required to employ duly qualified and registered persons. Drivers, for example, have to meet all the requirements and be licensed by the National Transport Safety Authority. As indicated above, our quality assurance and standards officers inspect such personnel to ensure that they are duly qualified. And of course, the portal management, which engages this personnel, are also frequently inducted on human resource practices and also required to ensure that they undergo routine retraining. Our quality assurance and standards officers also inspect to ensure compliance. Finally, Honourable Speaker, where one is found culpable after investigations, they could be subjected to a disciplinary process in line with the provisions of the Employment Act 2007 and the Teacher Service Commission Act in the case of teachers. Where the culpability also constitutes a crime, they could also be prosecuted by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and upon completion of investigation. I also submit, Honourable Speaker.
KJ?
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education, just even by its formation, is one of those ministries that we have extreme confidence in, especially in the leadership of Waziri Mashogu and PS Belio, because the expectations are very high because of the experience that they have in public service. And so, Mr. Speaker, I was expecting a more definite answer on the questions that I have asked. One, the case of the accident in Getuge. Has the ministry been able to establish why our school bus would leave Nyeri and instead of taking the more direct route back to Nairobi, would divert in the direction of Murang'a, a road that is also known to be an extremely dangerous road at the time that it took it? Was the ministry able to establish what informed the two drivers of that bus and the teacher responsible to take an alternate route that led to the accident? The reports that we are getting, Mr. Speaker, are that probably that bus was on another mission other than just getting the children to Nairobi directly. Mr. Speaker, the minister mourns with the families that have lost their children. One death is one death too many in school, Mr. Speaker. Schools are expected to be very safe. I'd want to hear, over and above the policies that exist, because these policies have been there, the accidents have been happening, I'd like to know specifically, are there new measures that are being taken to ensure that these accidents do not happen as they are? For example, Mr. Speaker, there are people in hospital. Some of them were injured after the accident because of the emergency response. How much emergency response training and first aid trainings do the caretakers who accompany the children have, Mr. Speaker, over and above the written policy? But secondly, Mr. Speaker, because the deaths have happened and there are students who are in hospital, beyond the mourning with the families, is the ministry making any plans to assist these families who have to lay their children to rest and the families that have their children in hospital? Are there any provisions by the ministry, being that these children are dying and getting injured while under the care of the ministry, who superintends and oversees our schools? So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like clarity on that.
Ado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question to the CS is the CS aware of the cover-up that took place at Visa Oshwell Academy in the hours following the death of 11-year-old Abdikarim Ali, who had gone into the pool and died there because he did not know how to swim. And then the caretaker took the body and locked it in a locker room overnight. This, of course, had a traumatic impact on the parents and relatives and friends who were searching for the body, and the Kenyan public as a whole, for the body to be found only at 11 a.m. the next morning. And I'd like to ask the minister as well, what is being done to ensure that cases like these of gross negligence do not happen in our public schools? Thank you.
Elachi, Minister, record those.
Thank you, and thank you very much. Mine is just to ask the minister, what happened to EduAfya, the education NHIF scheme for children? Because even as we talk about all this, right now they don't have any medical cover. So what happens? And are the school buses given insurance that is comprehensive or a third party?
Zamzam. Hold, Minister.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nataka kumuuliza waziri kwa sababu kuna wakati katika taifa hili tulikuwa na waziri wa elimu alikuwa akitoka ghafla anaingia kwenye mashule anaangalia watoto wanakaa namna gani. Mheshimiwa Spika, watoto wanaangushwa hata kutoka kwenye basi ya skuli, wanapigwa mpaka na madereva wa basi. Walimu wanatesa watoto ndani ya maskuli. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naomba kuuliza waziri, kama kisa cha huyu mtoto Abdul Karim ambaye amefariki juzi kimetokea na kuna wengine ambao mpaka sasa wananyanyasika, ametusomea kanuni na sheria ambazo ameziweka. Je, anafanya bidii gani kuhakikisha anafuatilia kanuni hizi kama zinafuatwa ndani ya maskuli? Kwa sababu mpaka sasa Mheshimiwa Spika, watoto wanazidi hata kuogopa skuli. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, pia ningependa kumuuliza, kuna skuli mpaka sasa mtoto amesoma lakini hajawekwa kwenye nemesis. Unamchukua mtoto kumpeleka skuli nyingine, unapata ule mtoto wako alikuwa hajakuwa registered na hiyo skuli, inachukua pesa, inachukua kila kitu. Kwa hiyo amefanya mbinu gani kuhakikisha kuwa kila skuli imechukua mtoto na kurekodi katika ile nemesis, watoto wote wao wanajulikana katika taifa? Asante sana.
Yes, member for, is it Turkana? Turkana Central. Yes, Joseph.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Swali moja tu.
I also want to join the rest of my colleagues in sending condolences to the families that lost their dear ones. My question is in regard to the issue of the students or pupils in schools that are prone to banditry areas. What is the take of the CS education in ensuring that these students are also staying safe in their schools? Because what we are seeing around is every time there is an attack or there is banditry, these schools are closed, and some of these students are also killed. What is the understanding of the CS, and what is the strategy or policy is putting in place to ensure that these students are also safe and doing their studies or learning in a safe environment? Thank you.
There are a few more MPs who want to ask questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Order, Minister, can you record a few more? Basil?
Thank you. Speaker, I also join my colleagues in condoling the families who lost their loved ones. I want to ask the minister to explain how often does the ministry conduct safety audit so that we don't become a reactive nation, because we need to ensure safety measures are in place throughout the learning program. Thank you.
Farah Malim? Give one of, yes.
Yeah, Speaker, in line with what the Member of Parliament from Turkana has said. We have to think outside the box and begin preparing ourselves for situations that can happen. And I've mentioned this a few times, and I want the minister to take note of that. In Nigeria, the Boko Haram has a tradition of abducting students who are in secondary schools or in primary schools and basically keeping them and doing all sorts of things, including conscripting them into the Boko Haram. It does not happen in here. But do we wait until it happens? I want the minister to take this into consideration. I know he's a very able minister. I have a lot of respect for him, so that we have security in all our boarding schools, in all the terrorist-prone areas, particularly in Northeastern Province, so that what happened in Nigeria doesn't happen to us. We have to think outside the box and prepare for these things well in advance, because the possibility is there. Thank you.
Thank you. Moranga Women Rep. Mama Pareo, is that you? I'll come to you after that. Minister, take a few. They are all very short questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I first wish to appreciate. I want to comment in line with the accident that took place in Murang'a County. And I wish first to appreciate that on that particular day, I had spoken to the minister. I was going to Kiraine High School, where a teacher had passed on in school, and thanks so much, Minister, you really assisted us for that particular incident, and I can tell you the students were completely traumatized. For that particular accident that happened in Murang'a, the driver, the victims, the survivor victims said that the driver was in speed. And at that particular time of the accident, the driver was under pressure from the school to ensure that the pupils arrive in school early, because the parents had already the parents were giving pressure for the students to be taken back to school. I think we really need to define the time we need to be allowing our students out of schools and back in school, because it was a simple matter of negligence. We have credible information from the survivors. We visited the scene, and I can tell you it has been very traumatizing, and especially to women like I who have got young children. Thank you.
I see a lot of, Minister, you can pile all of them. Pareo, Mama. Mama Pareo, Naroko North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask the Minister for Education if he's aware that Narok North is seriously hit by the shortage of teachers. And this is because teachers are running away from Narok North to go to where they will benefit from the allowances that are paid to teachers in other constituencies. And we have hardship allowances in our neighboring constituencies, and that's why teachers are running away. And there are schools that have a population of 700 pupils with only 2 teachers. And in the JSS classes, there are classes that have no teacher completely. So I want to ask the Minister of Education if he's aware and what he's doing to make sure that Narok North benefit from the hardship allowances, so that teachers of our own cannot be running away from the constituency to go and benefit from the hardship allowances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The last on this round, Mama Nairobi. Did I see your hand? Oh, Edith Nyanza. Yes.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. My question is on capitation to public schools. We are now about to, the financial year is about to end. What percentage of capitation has been sent to public schools? Because there is a lot of outcry from the teachers saying that they have no funds.
Minister, can you answer those? Those who still want to ask, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You can allow me to answer all of them, but not in any given order the way they have come.
Yeah, just go
to
ahead.
start with Narok North, the member which were designated as hardship areas, and when one works in an hardship area, he has some kind of enhanced salary, hardship allowance. It has caused quite a lot of problems because there are neighboring areas which are not so designated. So you find teachers working in those areas would prefer working in the next area which is designated as hardship, and hence causing a problem in these other areas. We have noted several areas, Honorable Speaker, sir, and I think it's an exercise that we have created a team with my peers and also the Minister of Public Service, so that we see whether we can be able to rationalize this. We have a clear criteria so that other deserving areas are not denied the opportunity, and you find that even areas which are not as deserving are benefiting from this hardship allowance that a number of teachers and public servants would also like to benefit from. So I think there's a process, there's an exercise going on, because we have noted that there's clearly a problem, as the Member of Parliament has said. Honorable Speaker, on banditry and insecurity in parts of our schools, yes, you are aware, like Baringo, the incident that we had the other day, very unfortunate. You are aware a few years ago of what we had in Turkana, and of course, many other parts of this country, where schools are not spared out of instances of insecurity. We work very, very closely with the Minister of Interior, which has the mandate of ensuring that security is guaranteed for our runners in schools. And of course, you will find a school, probably the best we are able to do is to employ a watchman, and these guys, when they come armed with firearms and all other weapons, a watchman cannot be able to counter and stop any such attacks. So we are working very closely on this. It's an area of great concern because it affects running, it causes fear, even when it has not occurred. Sometimes you find the children are traumatized to an extent where they cannot be able to do what they are supposed to do in school. We want a peaceful coexistence, an atmosphere that running will be able to take place in our schools. So we are working closely, including giving money. We gave 100 million to Baringo. The military has been trying to reconstruct some of the schools which were destroyed by the bandits. We did the same in Turkana. Some of those schools are now up and running, but still we cannot be able to say that 100% we have been able to sort out that problem of insecurity. But so far so good, because you know the efforts being done by my colleague Kindiki on this area of security and trying to mitigate on insecurity in those areas. And I think we are getting some good progress, even if there are still instances that are happening in these areas. The other area is on medical cover. Members, you know that it is only the other day, I think, that you passed the universal health coverage rules, which will be able to apply universally, including to our school-going children. The Eduafia that we had that was covering all our children at separate different levels, considering what you did, because all these things were put together, unified, integrated, and amalgamated in such a way that the system we are coming up with should be able to serve better. So as of now, sometimes there's that lacuna, there's a vacuum in between here, because when we encounter a problem, and that's why we are hoping that the regulations being worked on will be done quickly, so that in case of any such cases we have, they can be covered. The other one is that education We have 32,000 primary schools countrywide. We have over 11,000 secondary schools. We have over 500 TVET institutions. We have over 70 universities. As CS education, there is a structure. If you go that you want to cover each and every primary school in this country, or you want to cover each and every secondary school, it is not humanly possible. So what I've done in the Ministry of Education is to create an environment where the officers are able to deliver, they are able to work, and I thank the members of this House because you were able to assist me in that effort. We have now given transport to a number of your constituencies, the sub-counties, and the few that we have not been able to give AIE so that they can be able to move around doing the work which is supposed to be done. Equally, those ones which have not been given, we are giving. We are also creating systems in such a way that if it is the regional county directors of education, if it is the county directors of education, if it is the quality assurance officers, each and every one of them to know their mandate, what they are supposed to do, and to be able to do their work. Such that at the ministerial level as CS, when I'm oversighting the entire country and getting reports on a daily basis, I'm sure that for sure my people are working, because it is through these people that the impact of the CS can be fed everywhere in the country. It is through them that whatever policies that the government has in matters of education can for sure be achieved. NEMIS, you know, before the establishment of NEMIS, the kind of problem we had, because we were operating manually. Same problem that we are having in TVET institutions, in our higher education universities, but now with the digitalization, we are coming up with a system which we are going to call KEMIS, covering every level of education, right from basic, primary, junior school, senior school, all the way to TVET institutions and the universities. And I think in another 4 months' time, we should be able to roll out that system where we should be able to capture data of each and every individual, and it is that particular information which will be able to take him through all the way from primary up to university. And of course, NEMIS has been able to help us to a large extent. But you know, we did insist that in order for one to be registered under NEMIS, he had to have a birth certificate. And there are parts of this country, as you are aware, where a number of our young ones have not been able to obtain these particular documents, and hence it also has few problems because not all the people are registered under that system, because then it denied them the opportunity of accessing capitation. Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, if you can allow me on a capitation, because there is a question on capitation, such that when I come to that particular question, I can be able to answer it, because I have it in my written answers, such that I can be able to answer it at that particular time. Honorable Speaker, as I said, we have set out safety measures. Actually, the major concern in the ministry, particularly when we have either any activity bringing schools together, even when school children are now moving out, we have insisted that the county director of education must be informed, and part of his responsibility is to ensure that particularly the vehicle they are traveling out with is compliant, is properly serviced, and it meets the required standards before the children are taken out. We have strict timelines on when they should be able to start and when the journey should be able to end, because we don't allow them to travel at night. We are also working with the police on the incident of Moranga, and I'm sure once we compare our notes, the driver, if he went diverting and doing other things, we are going to get answers. And of course, there is an element of criminality in this thing where it might not just be disciplinary action, but somebody will have to be taken to court because it's something we cannot allow. The affected families, members, you know that unfortunately, as a ministry, we don't have funds to assist these families when they lose their loved ones. In actual fact, I think those who know, sometimes I also fundraise amongst my officers. Each and every instant, minister, that is not money from the ministry. That is money which I normally fundraise. But we assist them with transportation. We try to raise funds as a ministry to buy coffins and at least to make it a little bit easier for the families which are affected by this, because we cannot be able to go misusing government money, all using money which has not been allocated to us by Parliament, because that particular fault is not anywhere given. Our teachers, particularly our principals and administrators, like now, each and every year, each and every holiday, we bring quite a number and give them training in Kemi, our institution here, and also in Simastea. Why and what is it that we train them about? Some of these things we are talking about is the major training that we are able to impart to our administrators of schools so that they know and are well equipped with information such that they can be able to manage better our institutions. We will continuously continue being alert. We will continuously continue monitoring, and this we do almost each and every other week. If I'm not having virtual meetings, sometimes if they are not physical, because like now, we have divided the country into 8. You will see the CS moving around with my regional director, each and every area, because there are items that we cover, and among the items we cover in these meetings with our officers who will then be able to enforce, because they represent us in each and every part of the country, are some of these particular issues we have discussed here, Madam Speaker. With that, I require to submit.
Thank you, CS. I think I will give 2 follow-ups. The Honorable Member for Njoro, Honorable Kathambi Chepkwony.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Allow me to start first by telling the CS thank you for sorting the Egerton University matter. I'm expecting the way you paint them 100%, it will be a continuity. Thank you very much on that. CS, I'm just raising the matter on the matters of TVET. It's unfortunate we have so many TVET in this country which are not equipped. How soon are we going to equip these TVET so that our youths can get benefit? And I'm asking that question because in Njoro constituency, as a complete institution which has taken so many years and it has not been implemented. The next question, CS, which I'm raising today, is the matters in relation with some teachers who sometimes become sick in the respective counties where they have sent for their duties. And they have cases where I have very sick teachers who come from my constituency, but probably someone was posted in Nyandarua and the other one is probably in Lodwar. My question is, CS, why don't we bring these teachers in the localities of the constituencies where their families can take care for them while they are just giving the services to the communities? And the last one, CS, which has become a big thorny issue, even I'm raising this because I addressed it even the other parliament, it's the matters of registration of the new schools, whereby members of parliament, even when they have a plan to construct new schools, we are getting a lot of challenges. CS, for how long are we going to talk to our officers in the ministries to ensure that the new schools we are proposing for our people are really going to be registered? CS, we are so much frustrated. I've raised this question many times, and I still raise it, and I'm expecting you are going to make a solution for us. Thank you very much, CS. Continue serving the institution, implement the matters of the TVET. Asante.
Thank you, honorable members. Let's try and keep it brief. The Honorable Bishop Kosgei. Give him the mic. He's right at the back on my far left.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I seek to an answer to this question as to whether the Ministry of Education, Bwana CS, has established a policy on how to construct and build buses that carries our children in school. Because the kind of accidents we see on the road and the impact it has on the passengers, it is horrifying to an extent that we ask ourselves that these buses were built to kill. Standards all over the world indicates that they pay attention to the frame, the major and the main frame architecture of the bus to withstand different types of load and impacts on the road and minimizes the dangers it causes on the people, and especially the vulnerable. The school buses, Bwana Waziri, got two features which are very mandatory, and that is emergency and also the issue of comfort and safety. Therefore, I am wondering whether the ministry and government has established a must policy to all the management of schools that dictates on how these buses are built. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I think I'll allow the Cabinet Secretary to answer those two. And I also realized there were some further questions that are dealing with already with questions that are coming up under ordinary questions. There are questions on special needs, there's capitation, there are many questions on counseling in schools, withholding certificates, teacher allowances, delocalization. So if your questions are on those, then let's move on because we've taken too long on this one. Let's allow the Cabinet Secretary.
Yeah, thank you.
He might respond to your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The one of transfer of teachers from Honorable Charity Gathambi, I think it is also somewhere. The sick teacher is Nyandarua, supposed to go to Njoro, somewhere in Nakuru. So it will be covered in that particular question.
Yes, Cabinet Secretary, anything that has got to do with the other questions coming up,
thank you.
You can defer the answer.
Honorable members again for Egerton University and our other universities because they were at the verge of collapse. Egerton University was total on its knees, but courtesy of the allocation from here, we are now paying our professors, our lecturers at 100%. And progressively, we are looking to financial stability moving forward of our universities. To come to the question of TVET, which is a concern of almost each and every member of this House, Honorable Madam Speaker, I would like to admit that 70 of our TVET institutions, as yet, we don't have equipment. We did a negotiation with the government of China, and we have been expecting that we will be able to get this equipment from the government of China. And even we are also following up with the government of Italy. We are again having negotiations. So it's something that we are aware of. It's something that we know of the critical importance of providing the equipment because teaching and training cannot be effectively done not unless we have this particular equipment, and even those other TVET institutions which are at the various categories, we are on top of it, and I think progressively moving forward, we should be able to get an answer. I did make an undertaking, members, on registration of schools. And I think my peers is here. We did arouse some kind of flexibility because the way the system was before, a lot of bureaucracy, I removed that. And I think following that, we have been able to register a number of schools. Honorable Charity Gatambi, if yours have not been done, kindly, you don't even have to come, a phone to me, and then I will make sure that I have my officers do it. And any other member of parliament, including your areas, if there's such a problem, kindly get in touch with myself or my peers or my director, quality assurance, and each and every one of us is informed instructions that we have to have that one done. Members, the other question, you know, we have a problem not only in education, but as a country. There are things we are calling passes are not supposed to be passes, because we take the chassis of a lorry, and then probably the CDF, you want to buy a pass, you are buying something which is originally not supposed to be a pass. The danger of that is that in the case of an accident, in the case that particular pass overturns, chances of it killing people, chances of it becoming fatal are very high. A pass is meant to be made in such a way that it is something carrying people, not misigo, not luggage. So this particular one, the means of transport, came up with a policy where they were proposing that a pass cannot be a chassis of something which is supposed to carry misigo. But you know, the case went to court, and Kenya being the way we are, the matter is still pending in court. They were stopped from implementing that, and I'm aware, yes, that some of the passes, including schools, and even the ones which are being used here outside, are not anywhere near the standards which are supposed to be met as far as passes are concerned. I think it's a conversation that we are supposed to have as a country. I hope someone somewhere will be able to fast track that case pending in High Court, so that the High Court can then open for that particular policy to be implemented. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much, honorable members. There is still another further 9 questions which touch on various matters. So chances are that you will have an opportunity to have a follow-up on one of the 9 questions. Because in fact, many people who have come to me have said, I want to ask about delocalization. And I've said there's a question on delocalization. On the issue of allowances, there is one. So you'll be able to find. So I think I will allow the honorable member for Nyakach, Honorable Aduma Owor, so that you can ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in the interest of your guidance, maybe I could merge question number 022 and number 40, which are meant for me and directed to the CS. If that would be the interest of the House and in the interest of time.
Yes, I think I will allow you that because they are both your questions.
Thank you.
So you can start with number 22.
Madam Speaker, then I'll go straight to...
And then jump to 40, and then the Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll go straight to the point and ask the CS to provide the details of the criteria used to disburse infrastructure funds to schools in the country. Madam Speaker, I would also ask the CS to explain to this House why the special funds for disadvantaged learners with special needs, which was previously kept at 2,300 shillings per child, has been reduced to half of that amount and has not been disbursed to the students for over 2 years. Madam Speaker, I would also ask the CS to explain the measures which the ministry has put in place to address the inadequate infrastructure for junior secondary schools.
may move to number 40.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On number 40, I would ask the CS to explain why some teachers are still delocalized after the policy was abolished in the interest of the family bonds and the values for the teachers. Madam Speaker, I want the ministry to state what measures the ministry is putting in place to end delocalization of teachers, considering and being aware that this House had already pronounced itself on the subject.
Thank you. Cabinet Secretary, you will proceed with those two questions. Then after that, members, we shall have our follow-up questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Madam Speaker, and my friend, the Member of Parliament for Nyakach. Members, as you are aware, the infrastructure fund is a limited resource package that is meant to supplement other infrastructural development resources, mainly the National Government Constituency Development Fund. And for me to commend the members, because in education, you go to each and every part of this country, each and every constituency, the infrastructural development, may they be classrooms, may they be administration blocks, may they be dormitories, preparatories, most of them have been constructed using CDF. So these infrastructure funds are dispersed, being limited as they are, to schools across the country based on an infrastructure need assessment, an equitable distribution, and also depending on the availability of funds and what amount of funds we have. Schools with poor infrastructure that seek to benefit from these funds make a request to the Ministry of Education through the Sub-County Directors of Education. The application details the infrastructure conditions of the school, the enrollment and the estimates of the infrastructure needs. Additional supporting documents such as bill of quantities, assessment reports, and recommendations and photographs may also be provided. The postal management also provide minutes indicating the infrastructure needs. These applications, Honorable Madam Speaker, are then forwarded to the Ministry for consideration. A school could be allocated funds once the Ministry determines that there is justified need and that the school deserves the requested intervention, subject to the availability of funds. In determining the allocation of funds, the Ministry seeks to ensure that the resources are equally distributed, noting the different levels of school infrastructure development and enrollment in the various parts of the country. Other than the foregoing criteria, some schools are also funded under the Emergency Response Fund if they have been befallen by natural or human calamities. Such schools may make an appropriate application for consideration, or they may be identified by the Ministry through its field officers. Projects in schools that are funded under this particular program, we also try to make sure that they are completed. This financial year, Honorable Madam Speaker, I'm sure the members are aware that we did put up a case saying part of the infrastructure funds that were to come to the ministry should be forwarded to the CDF because they have a better structure, a better system to be able to implement some of the things that we should be able to do. And following that, 3.39 billion, which was supposed to come to the ministry, went through means of finance and economic affairs. And I think what we are trying to do so that we start putting up the 6,000 classrooms is to make sure that the money is released to you, because we are kind of working against time, and this we did recommend that it comes as a conditional grant, and the criteria used, I think in allocating what is to be given in each and every constituency, we did sit down based on enrollment and the number of schools in each and every constituency. We came up with that and we submitted that through the Committee of Education so that being split and categorized into each and every level, every member now should be able to know he has what out of that particular amount. The other one, Madam Speaker, that we have had to make a special consideration is some of our counties, like the capital city, which is Nairobi. Nairobi is in a very pathetic kind of situation because it's like the private sector is the one doing education. Members of Parliament are aware. The 17 constituencies, out of 1,000 schools, over 800 are private schools, and some of them are in very pathetic conditions. Not private schools, because the motivating factor of one to start a private school, the element of profit is there. But these ones are just started, they are charging 1,000. So sometimes the quality of education is not as good. And in order for us to create a capacity, we also found that Nairobi is badly hit, not like any other parts of the country, and therefore there is a special infrastructure grant which has also been given to Nairobi, the 1 billion, which each and every constituency of the 17 will be able to get 58,000, so that 58 million, so that we try to create a capacity in Nairobi, because as I've said, in primary and in secondary, the situation is pathetic, and we want to progressively see how we can be able to remedy the situation in Nairobi before we also move to other cities. We were in Mombasa, those who were there on Monday. The situation is no better. We are also experiencing the same kind of problems. So, Madam Speaker, the second set of questions, so that members then can be able to ask other questions, is on special schools, question number 40. And this question 1, I would like to first inform the members the number of special needs education schools we have in the country, and then we will now specifically come to the question. There are 2,892 day primary schools in the country with an enrollment of 117,565 runners. The boarding primary special needs education institutions are 337 in number, with a total enrollment of 43,266 runners. There are 81 secondary special needs education schools with a total enrollment of 7,064. There are 134 junior school special needs education institutions with an enrollment of 1,593 runners. We also have 66 pre-vocational special needs education institutions with a total enrollment of 952 runners. As the member has rightly put it, all our primary school level runners, each of them receives an allocation of 1,420 as capitation, all our public primary schools. And again, those with special needs, each runner then is supposed to be given 2,300 free for primary education, a top-up for specialized running materials and assistive devices. This amount is intended to enable schools to procure specialized running resources, assistive devices, and technologies for runners with special needs and disabilities. Members, we did establish that there is money which was given to a number of these schools, but then unfortunately, a number of them were not buying the devices, the running materials as it was supposed to be. Either the money was diverted or put into other uses, and hence you will go to a number of them, you find the devices are actually not there, and therefore the kind of running that we expect in these schools was kind of missing. We had a kind of problem that we had with the textbooks. You remember years back where schools were given money to procure textbooks, but then they were not doing it. And hence, when the centralized system of procuring textbooks came into being, at least we are almost attaining the 1-to-1 ratio as far as textbooks provision is concerned. So in this one, 2022, we said 2023, if we can have a centralized system where we procure these running materials plus the assistive devices in a centralized manner through KISE, and then we supply all these devices into the schools, it might work out better, and for purposes of accountability, and even because we are procuring in big volumes, then even the cost becomes better. So last year we did that, and I think I have a breakdown of how we were able to distribute those particular specialized materials into all our institutions. So based on this, we adopted that, and in the financial year 2022-2023, out of the total allocation of 334,562,600 as top-up grants, the ministry sent 50% of this, being 167,281,300 to KISE, and send the remainder to schools. In the year 2023-2024, the ministry has sent 135,199,750 to schools, being 50% of the total allocation that was given to us. KISE, we are yet to disperse for, again, the kind of material and devices we had to procure because of exchequer issues, which, of course, we hope that in the very near future, as the financial year progresses, we should be able to get that, and then we have it, the material dispersed. In secondary, Honorable Speaker, the amount is higher than primary. It is 35,750 per annum. And this financial year, we have 200 million, which has been provided to, translating to not 35 now, but 28,313 per annum. The total deficit here, for which we seek your intervention, is Kenya shillings 52,393,688. And Honorable Speaker, I think we have given a figure, and this particular question, I think, goes on with the amount of capitation that we get in primary and in junior school and in secondary, because the figure as it was given, I think progressively it is becoming lower and lower because of the amount of money allocated to us by Parliament, and therefore we are not able to go to the kind of figure that as fixed. I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
I think the honorable member who asked the question has the first shot in the follow-up questions. That's the MP for Alego Songa, the Honorable Atandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've listened to the Cabinet Secretary keenly. And Mr. Speaker, during the school opening, I had the opportunity to visit some of my schools, the provincial schools in my constituency, namely Nyakach Girls, Nyabondo High School, and Rai Girls High School. And Nyakach girls, with a population which is close to 4,000, had a school laboratory which could only accommodate 30 students. So that is what really moved me to raise these questions. And I learned that the distribution of these funds is quite skewed, and there are schools with very, very high enrollment rate of learners, which are disadvantaged. So I hope the Cabinet Secretary will be able to address that, so that these schools which are disadvantaged have a school in Githunguri, which is a case in point with over 7,000 students. And that really need to be addressed by the ministry. Mr. Speaker, my constituency is also a hardship area, and I learned that the ministry has also been quite skewed in the issue of delocalization, where this house had actually pronounced itself. So I wanted that also to be addressed, because if you delocalize even within the same county and you do not take these schools, these teachers to their sub-counties, then you are not also solving the problem for these families. So I hope the CS, who I know is equal to task, will look into this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, those are statements, sentiments, which you can take into consideration. But the MP for Isiolo, Mumina, you will take a few of them together.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a follow-up question on the matter of school infrastructure funds, I want to appreciate the CS for the good work they are doing in ensuring that these funds is moved fairly across all the schools. But the CS, there are matters that I need to bring to your attention when it comes to how well equipped some of the schools in our counties are. For example, in the case of Isiolo County, you realize that we only have one national school, which is a girls' school. We do not have any school equipped to the standard of national status that serves boys in that county. And most of our schools, as you see, especially where you are very much focused sending or placing students to go to school in areas like, in a school like Sericho Secondary and Bulesa Secondary and Algani Girls, they lack boarding facilities. And yet, you are placing Form 1s to those schools from other parts of the counties, and we are left wondering.
Order, honorable members, order. Honorable members, if I understood the rules very well, this is a question and answer. You have a small opportunity to build up a background for a question, but not make a long statement on all the shopping list you have out there. So you can say in view of such and such and such, and then you ask a question.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Chair.
All I'm
trying to ask is how to take care of schools where they are not well equipped, the infrastructure is not to the standard that is expected. For the case of Isiolo, we only have one girls' national school. We don't have a boys' school. Secondly, low-cost boarding. The funding that is supposed to low-cost boarding, to go to low-cost boarding that is serving the ASAL counties very well, has gone down dramatically. We really want to understand why. Why? Because the reason why this concept was established in the first place is in line with the livelihood styles of these pastoralists. Because of the mobility, access, retention, and completion was a problem. So if you drop funding low-cost boarding, where do you expect these children to go? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, last El Nino affected so many schools. There are villages that were submerged. There are schools that were completely destroyed. Some villages opted to move to higher ground. There are no facilities in terms of learning to happen in those villages. I know CDF is supposed to do something around that, but the mandate to ensure that every child is in a school lies with the ministry. As I speak, in my county, a town center called Iresaboru, there is no learning happening at all because there are no schools.
Please ask a question.
So my question to to that effect, Mr. Speaker, is what do you intend to do with learners who are still at home because schools were washed away?
Fair enough. Yeah, you, the MP for Bomet, you take a few, Honorable Minister. MP for Bomet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I'm talking about the lady. You are not the MP for Bomet. Bomet is a county. I'm talking about when it's a county, MP for counties are all ladies. Proceed, the MP for Bomet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for protecting ladies. Thanks also for giving me this opportunity to also contribute on the questions pertaining Ministry of Education. I only have 3 questions to put across. One is about the issue of capitation. I would like to ask the minister, there are some schools in my county, even especially in my ward, that they have not received capitation. Secondly, is about the JSS, that is junior secondary schools. In my county also, there are some schools which has not been registered, and the learners are in class, despite meeting all the requirements, they has not been registered. Thirdly, is about the delocalization. You realize in our county again, and I know even in many other counties, some of the teachers has been posted in very far away from home. Like today, they are breaking for half term. You see, some of them they took even 1 week to travel from where they are to home. So we would like to really seek the clarification. Despite looking for those transfers, they have not been considered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Thank you.
I think 2 more follow-up questions if we have to finish this business. The Honorable Member for Funyula, Oundo, you ask your follow-up question. I might have to just go by this because when you lift your hands, I don't know the names, but I'll use this one just to try and figure out who is who. Proceed.
Chair, now
let them be questions. Let them be questions. No, not long statements.
No, I'm just going to ask a question.
A follow-up question, yes.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. And I just want to follow up with what my colleagues have raised. The issue of capitation. Could the Cabinet Secretary, if possible now, give an update of capitation to both primary and secondary school for the financial year 2022, 2023, and 2023-2024. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
MP for Kilgoris, the Honorable Simkuli Julius.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister what the policy is with regards to enrollment per class, because there are so many schools now that are losing students in Kilgoris constituency, whereas their neighboring schools are overcrowded. One classroom has 80 students, another classroom in a neighboring school has only 20 students. Is there a policy that the